Hi, good afternoon, friends. It's Goshiack again, and I'm welcome you this Sunday afternoon. And I would like to be able to share with you something that recently I found very important, very valuable. It is the concept of being vulnerable. So, vulnerability, what is it? It is being used in the common language as an equivalent of being weak or being hurt or betrayed. Then you feel vulnerable, and I would like to propose a certain type of assessment or even just a statement that vulnerability can be actually your greatest power. Why is it? Why is it having a potential of being power, of being a strength? It's just because it is a actual power to show up, to be your authentic you, despite the circumstances, despite the inner doubts, despite having all type of judgments or people around you that might find whatever you're saying, behaving, trying to convey not so precious as you're finding it, why presenting it as your own truth or just opinion worth sharing. So it is very tricky, and not many people decide to experience vulnerability in that meaning. It is very far from being a victim. Being vulnerable in that sense means that you are anyway continuing presenting whatever you find precious to other people, or even being very authentic and true to yourself in a situation despite all the external judgment and also internal, because all these wounds, all these uncertainties that appear in a moment, a split second, when we decide whether we are going to be vulnerable, whether we are going to go on with whatever we want to be and say around. It is this present situation. Maybe not all the people like me in here, not all people appreciate me, know me, have their own biases and judgments. But also it is an internal struggle, because we all have our experiences of being hurt in the past, through being misunderstood, through being judged either by our close friends, significant others, family, whatever stories from our past that still, resonate inside of us. And the small situations of being in a field of a battle, however we perceive the situation of a challenge, might resemble emotionally slightly this situation from the past. So they might not be exactly the same moments, but even the slight possibility I might not be understood in here, or I might be misjudged, might be a significant factor of stopping us in being here and now as we are, as we would be. So if we haven't had all these obstacles, internal and external, so the key in here is vulnerability. And being vulnerable is paying attention to everything is going inside and outside, seeing all this opponent, if you will, and still pursuing in whatever we want to do, say, be. And why is it a superpower? Because if you are every time stopped in saying whatever you want to, just because of this fear of judgment, then you are not vulnerable, but then you're not achieving whatever you find in the first place worth doing, worth saying, and then you either not develop, or you're not. Then you negate whatever you want to be, you want to say, but then you're stuck in this emotional loop. You're not going farther, you're not expanding as a person, and you're not expanding in your role, you're not expanding also socially, because you always think you are less than, because you take on judgment of others. So yeah, we feel hurt, we feel afraid, and it's normal. who doesn't? But why we are not? Why is it worth in the first place to be vulnerable? Because this power, first of all, make us pursue our goals in a more steady and consistent way. Plus, it also allows us to connect with other people on a more close and authentic way, because we are not afraid of being hurt. And you see, that's the key point in here. We are just doing whatever we want to, despite being liked or not. And this lack of the need, immediate need of being liked, just is not an obstacle for us anymore. So we would basically continue in whatever we started in the first place, despite feeling all this emotional struggle inside. So development in a role, personal, professional, but also intimate relationships, they start to grow basically, and we start to experience it more in a more human way, in a more complete way, because then we we release all the spectrum of our personality, of our emotions, or even of our doubts and ideas, because we are not afraid of the consequences. Of course, it's not about hurting others and I'm not afraid whether you're going to punch me back. But it's all about these things that we have many times fear of sharing, because we don't know how it's going to be received. And I'm not saying just doesn't matter, don't take into consideration other people's opinion, just push with whatever you want. Partly yes, but I think we should still be mindful of hurting other people. So I'm talking here about the situation that personally are for us a struggle, but I'm not talking about overcoming or overwhelming other people with our opinions. It's all about being consistent and being true to whatever truth we want to expose in a moment. So yeah, realizing of that struggle is the first thing, and I would like you to listen to one quote of I'm sure you know the Turkish philosopher from the 13th century, Rumi, and he said something very interesting about vulnerability. He said, "Your task is not to seek for love, but merely to seek and find all the barriers within yourself that you have built against it." So it's not about seeking for acceptance. It's about seeking for the walls we build around us that would not let other people hurt us. And I think this is the great definition of vulnerability, because you realize all the possibility of you hiding, but yet you decide to be open and to receive all the goods and the bads of the moment, just because you know your worth and you're not afraid of consequences. That's powerful bit. I love it. And imagine if you have it really on everyday level, and just it would not stop you in saying things that are meaningful to you. I'm not talking here about debates that are supposed to show who's right, who's wrong, but in these moments when you think, oh, I will not say it because it might not be PC in terms of, or kosher, if you will, because other people might not know me from that side. It's your call, First of all, maybe sometimes it's not adequate to expose everything, but I'm sure we all have this kind of a thermostat inside that we know when is it good to share it, when it's not. And sometimes it's only this small bit of fear, how I'm going to be received, an obstacle. So I'm talking here, I'm building a case for showing you the benefits of removing it. So what makes you vulnerable? Do you know? First of all, I think that it's very important to realize, first of all, what type of situations trigger in us this fear, and then how do we behave when we feel vulnerable? Are we defensive? Are we hiding? Are we trying to punch other, like I'm ready that you're going to try to hurt me right now, I will punch you back, you know? Or what is our first initial reaction when we know we are on the waters of vulnerability? And I would say when we spot it, when we know what triggers us, when we know how we react, then we can try to manage it. And we can manage it by mentoring ourselves, by reminding what is actually going to bring me if I go for it. So as we mentioned previously, personal development, having a full human experience, because you're not afraid. You're just yourself in a moment. That first. Second of all, because you present the whole spectrum of yourself, you are they're more likely to find a person or persons, people that resonate with you, and then create meaningful connections. Like, think about all the situations that you play the role of someone that you think will be liked. So you play someone that is going to be accepted just to receive this acceptance. Imagine situations that you don't have that fear that showing your true self will receive the same effect. How amazing this life can be. Wow. So I would say the greatest triumph will be when we turn our vulnerabilities into openness without the risk of being hurt. Knowing all the risk, that's the point. It's not like, oh, I'm not listening, everything is going to be okay, positive thinking. No, you are an adult. You see the potential risk, you feel all the fear, you know the potential benefits, and you decide to go for it. Sounds great to me. And there are quite a few occasions I'm trying that out, and guys, this feeling is amazing. So this is what I start to say at the very beginning, to transform vulnerability into strength. So vulnerability is not being weak, it's not about being abandoned, it's about taking all the potential of the situation and potential for the self-development and wham, present it in a moment. And imagine the feeling of being victorious after the first situation like this. I overcame my fear. I went there, I've been myself, and I won. Maybe not always the situation, but I won for myself. I have shivers, so it means I said something meaningful. So let's not stop our shadow side, our previous hurts, previous fears, to stop us in the long run to achieve more from life, for us, for others. That's my invitation. And as always, I invite you to express your opinion about what I said. Maybe you have different definition of vulnerability. I was very inspired with Brené Brown. She is American researcher. She is incredible presenter as well, fabulous woman. She inspired me to look in a vulnerability like around 2 years ago, and I'm very grateful for her. And I also invite you to check her own definition of vulnerability and how she presented her own research on that subject. For now, I'm always waiting for your messages if you want to talk to me about whatever reflections you had about what we've been talking about. and I would gladly also start a conversation. I'm also there available on Facebook. I put some contacts down there below in Talk to Goshiack, and I invite you to talk to me whenever you want. So thank you again for today. Have a fabulous Sunday. Bye guys.